So good morning, everyone. I want to get this panel started right away so we have as much time as possible to hear from our wonderful panelists. So I am Maddie Fuller. I sit on the YWCA Niagara Leadership Summit for Women Planning Committee, and I also sit on the YWCA Niagara Board, and I am the room moderator today, so behind the scenes, so you'll be sending all of your questions and comments to me so I can make sure they get to our lovely panelists. And I just wanted to start off with a couple housekeeping and some information about this summit as well. So first, I want to begin this panel with a land acknowledgement. So we begin by acknowledging the land on which we live and work is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. The territory is covered by Upper Canada treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. And today this gathering place is home to the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. So a little bit about the YW as well. So the YWCA Niagara region is a local organization that stands for gender equity and gives a voice to those who are marginalized in our community. The YW offers emergency shelter and 3 stages of traditional housing to homeless women, men, and families to help its clients step by step break the cycle of homelessness and poverty for good. So if you'd like to find out more about YWCA Niagara region, I believe we have a virtual virtual area within EventMobi. So please feel free to find out more information on how you can get involved. And then quickly, some community guidelines. I know you probably have all heard this already by the 3rd day of the summit, but nonetheless, I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that our Niagara Leadership Summit for Women virtual event is designed to facilitate a safe and open space for all participants. By participating in this session, you are agreeing to follow our community guidelines, and you can find these guidelines on the left-hand side menu under the Importance Documents tab. And we are all responsible for making an inclusive environment, and we appreciate your support in doing so. So to the good part, I am going to quickly introduce our panelists today. And our lovely moderator as well, Alex Peterson. Alex Peterson is a corporate communications officer for the city of Port Colborne. And in this role, she manages all corporate strategic communication initiatives, including overseeing media relations and social media activities. She received her Bachelor of Arts honors in sociology from Queen's University and a postgraduate diploma in integrated marketing communications from Conestoga College. Alex is passionate about the Niagara community and is always looking for ways to get involved. She actively participates in local community theater groups, both on stage and behind the scenes, is a mental health advocate, and enjoys being a big sister with Big Brothers Big Sisters South Niagara. And during her spare time, Alex enjoys exploring the city of Port Colborne, where she currently lives. Thanks, Alex, for hosting our session today. I'm super excited. Alex is passionate about the Niagara community and is always looking for ways to I forgot to mute my EventMobi. There you go. Awesome. And now on to our panelists. So I want to introduce Sarah Singleton and Terry Canestrero from Females Who Side Hustle. So a professor-student mentorship turned business partners. Terry and Sarah are 2 Niagara-loving event planners with a desire to bring more females to the table. They founded Females Who Side Hustle in 2019 and haven't looked back. It's a community to support and educate and empower females who hustle. We're women who connect through open conversations and shared experiences. Their goal is to be able to say, we've got a gal for that across industries. And Terry, I'm pretty sure you first said that at the last leadership summit, and I loved it. And with and with a newly launched podcast called Save Her Seat and a series of events aimed at bringing women together, they're ditching competition and encouraging females to lift each other up and collaborate. Awesome. Thank you. That across industry. And our next is Teresa Sawchuk. Teresa Sawchuk Leadership Summit, and I'm so sorry, I'm going through some technical difficulties right now. Teresa Sawchuk and Stephanie Laquette Hall. They met through a mastermind group that is no longer together, and when the pandemic started changing the world around us, they came together to form Wednesdays with Wisdom and Wine and Sip and Soul Niagara to bring women together. Sip and Soul Niagara runs every Friday morning on a virtual platform, and it is a safe place for women entrepreneurs to network, and for women entrepreneurs to network with others to share. together. Together, they have created 2 social platforms for women to be inspired and to help fulfill their aspirations, dreams, and goals. And they love to see women come together and rise. Thanks, Teresa and Stephanie. It's awesome to see 2 duos here with us today. And finally, we have Patricia Reguer, who is a learning experience designer and is passionate about online meetings and education that sparks enthusiasm and results. She is a facilitator, content creator, and production partner. And Patricia gets excited about multimedia tools that can reach and engage the variety of learning types in your audience or a team. Over 20 years of experience working in Niagara's nonprofit sector, leading and contributing to collaborative programs, Patricia merges academic knowledge from a Master of Adult Education with practical experience. She is the founder of Reguer Educational Services, and which provides resources and support through her YouTube channel, website, online courses, workshops, facilitator tech support, and content creation skills. And Patricia is pleased to help leaders and facilitate engage their audiences, turning them into participants. So thank you to our panelists, and I want to hand it off to Alex to get it started. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introductions, Maddie. We really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us today, the panelists, as well as everyone connecting in. I am so excited to be here with you today. So to get started, I kind of want to chat about how people stay re-energized and stay creative in the virtual space. And I think this goes back to the beginning of March when COVID-19 first started. People were really engaged with the whole Zoom, let's set up wine chats with girlfriends, let's do meetings. And then of course, as this slowly becomes our norm, and this is what's happening across the world, we find that people are getting tired of using digital platforms. And I want to know if you guys have advice on how people can stay re-energized when connecting on a digital platform, how people can get inspired to network and also stay connected. Who wants to start? Open question.
We can start.
Yeah, sure.
I think, sorry. I think it's been really important for me personally to set time. You can get really roped into that boredom and constantly checking what's new, checking your notifications. So I've taken some notifications off of my phone too, so that I would be more intentional about going online. So that I could know, okay, I have this little break. I'm going to go in and check in with my girlfriends and see what they're up to. So it's not just so much coming in all the time when you are working from home and having your personal accounts as well. It can be overwhelming. So I think setting that time and those notifications being off have really helped with that balance, but really finding that inspiration online too, and being, like I said, intentional about scrolling online. I like to know, oh, who can I connect with? What are people doing? Who can we shout out? Who can we celebrate, especially in quarantine during these times, to have those kind of COVID wins. So that's kind of the intention we set when we're online.
And I also think like just being real about the situation. So I never worked from home, and I have little kids and a husband who works shift work, and it was a major mind shift for me. And I was trying to keep up my mindset that when I was at work, and I had to give myself a little bit more credit to be in a transitional period in my mind. And now I feel better about being online all the time. I'm very real about it. Sometimes, my kids are in the frame because that's just what I need to be doing at the same time. So I was trying to, relive what I was, my professional person and my home life. And now that they're blended, I'm just owning that. And I feel like that's taken actually a lot of pressure off of me. And it has actually remotivated me, because I'm like, okay, no, this is my real life and this is what I got to show, and I'm cool with it now.
Yeah, and if I can add to what Terry just said too, when I work with different groups, whether you're with a team or you're working with colleagues on an event that you haven't met or you don't see each other that often regularly before all of this happened, to not skip that round table, that to be real about the context helps reframe everyone into the space instead of just ignoring it. Even though you need to be efficient and move on with the agenda, it's a good thing to take the time and space for that connection.
I also think,
Oh, sorry, Stephanie.
that's okay. I was going to say, I also think it's really important to walk away. Like I will schedule breaks into my calendar. They're a certain color. I know that like no matter what happens or what comes up, I'm going to stick to that break just so that I can walk away, clear your head. Sometimes just get outside, go for a quick little walk, just kind of let it all go before you come back. Because now like we're working at home, I feel like we're tied to our computers almost 24/7, right? Or to put it away, like 8 o'clock at night, no matter what we're doing, cell phones away, computers away, unless there's an absolute emergency, just so that we can shut it down. I feel like that really helps too with the Zoom fatigue.
Exactly. Just to go outside into nature, refresh, regroup your mind, and come back. And then you're more inspired that way.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. So now that we've moved more into a digital era, and I have to say, and you probably agree, we've always kind of been in a digital era, but this has heightened the opportunities that we have within this digital scope. So in your opinion, does this new digital era present opportunities for women, girls, and unrepresented leaders to thrive?
Most definitely. It magnifies and amplifies your message to a wider audience, I find. An audience that you may have never thought of before, and a diverse audience. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to do this networking this way.
And I've been so impressed with how people have embraced the new learning curves that they were forced into, how creative people have been at all ages and stages and situations and contexts. It's just been really inspiring.
And I also think it's been really good for women as well, because some of the boundaries are gone. If you're a woman coming into a boardroom, you may be a little bit afraid or you don't show your true self, but over Zoom, you're in your own comfortable space. Everyone has the same equal box. And then if you're on speaker mode, everyone is focused on you when you're speaking, which doesn't always happen in a boardroom. So I feel like it's really expanded that for women.
To add to that, I think it's made us a little bit more vulnerable. And I think that's a really good quality to tap into, because some of the things that we sort of preach to our community is we just say like, we want to see you, we want to know you, we want to see the behind the scenes of your business, we want to buy from you. And so I feel like this sort of era that we're living in, or our new normal, is forcing us to be those people. And I think that's what the world needs. So that's the positive that we've kind of seen through it. It's forcing people to be a little bit more vulnerable and show themselves and be comfortable in their own skin. And I just think that's an amazing quality to have, and learn at any age, really.
Yeah, and Terry said about kind of being forced into it. Patricia, you said it too about people who have kind of been forced into it. And I think it's those people that maybe were sitting on the fence or had one foot in, one foot out to the social kind of scene. Now they're kind of full force jumping in. And I just find that most great things and great ideas come from that push. And it's that external push that they're feeling now that is going to make them thrive, because they don't really have a choice, and they're going to be the most creative they can be because they want it to work so badly. So I think it's a positive, even though sometimes it presents itself as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And then I also just want to tap into more so, I know that, do you think that companies who have always been on the, you need to be in the office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, do you think having employees at home has also increased the opportunity to, find that work-life balance? In the sense, I know I have friends who have children and they're able to now work a couple hours in the morning, work a couple hours at night, get their job done, but still be able to parent. Do you think moving to more of this at-home working because of this digital era will actually help with that work-life balance?
I think it does. I just want to kind of point out that there is a transition period, kind of like I talked about before, right? It's not just an easy switch. At least it wasn't for me and most of my sort of warm circle, that I was kind of like, what's going on? Like how, like I'm forcing myself to change. So I do feel it's a new groove that we're learning, but as soon as you kind of get in it and you embrace it, I truthfully think that if there is an employer out there who's not really recognizing that we're all human going through this together, maybe we need to switch up our leadership style. But for those of you who are embracing it and, understanding that, yeah, our time just looks a little bit different, but our productivity is probably going to increase because we are so comfortable at home. I definitely think that that's something that is most definitely a positive. And I remember thinking when I was at work, like, I wish I could be at home right now doing this. And now that I am, I'm like, oh, okay. So it is, I think it's a hard transition, but once it's kind of, you own it and it's happening and there's a support system for you. And if there isn't, find one, then yeah, it's definitely, I think I am more productive, to be quite honest.
And depending on the context and stage of life, it definitely provides different challenges and opportunities. I've been working for a few years, so in this context already from home, from my dining room, and I have young women, young adult children. So they had the opportunity to see me build a business, the highs and lows. So there's a great opportunity for learning and open conversations. I recently moved into a room with a closed door in my house, and wow, that's amazing. But the juggling that people have to do when they have young children and they're working and everything, I think everybody needs to be real and compassionate and supportive about that too, because there's challenges and opportunities.
Perfect, thank you. So now that we are in this digital era, how do you think we can use this current moment and the next, I guess, few months, maybe next couple of years as they present themselves, to really cultivate the next generation of leaders and leadership skills?
Is that
Any
directed
takers?
at anyone? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, any takers, I would like to hear actually at some point from Terry and Sarah regarding this, because I know that they have a mentorship relationship, and I'm curious to know what their perspective is on how people can stay connected in that type of mentorship mentee relationship.
Yes, we love it. So just a little bit of a backstory. Terry was actually my college professor when I was in the event management program at NC, and we always stayed, well, we weren't even super close in the program. She wasn't my direct faculty, but post-graduation, she was going on to mat leave, doing weddings. She'd always contact me if she needed an extra hand. When she couldn't take on a bride, she'd refer it my way. And we just ended up both working at Niagara College at the same time and connected over a coffee when she came off of a mat leave. And she was like, I need something more. I need this connection. I need a community, somewhere to kind of like spew out this creative outlet that is burning inside of me. And within 24 hours, we had Female Suicide Hustle online. And I just think it was such an organic mentorship. I feel we talk a bit about mentorship and how it's sometimes so formalized and intimidating, in that you have to find this person who is 20 years ahead of you in the industry and formally ask, will you be my mentor? When both ends of that, like, it seems a bit awkward. Whereas if you just have that genuine connection, and it's really a two-way street. Mentorship isn't one person always giving you the insight and the answers. It's bouncing off each other. And now Terry says that I'm her mentor.
She is. I learned so much from Sarah. Like, our relationship is just like blossom, and every day I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I have her in our life, or in my life. And I think the one thing that we say a lot too is collaboration over competition. And that, like, it's a mindset that people need to be sort of embracing. And the collaboration, again, is the positive mindset. It's the creativity. It's so much better than competition. And especially now, because the digital space that we were forced to go into can be very intimidating. You can see, like, if you have that creative outlet and you see that you want to be maybe really good at sewing and you're like, oh, and somebody says, oh, I can, can I purchase that from you? And you think about a small business idea, and then maybe you go online and you're not, familiar with the Instagram or Facebook, however you want to promote yourself. And you see a lot of other people sewing on there and you're like, oh no, it's like, no, yes, you can only do it your way, and no one else can do it your way. So all of these things I feel are what people need to embrace, and even just like trying and baby steps, and collaborate, reach out to people. I find now, so Sarah always coins herself as a introvert extrovert. Like she's more introvert than she is but she most definitely now through the digital world, like that's kind of going away, and we can reach into someone's DMs or direct message in Instagram and chit chat and find that mentor and try to help and collaborate people online. I do think the space is there for us to do that now.
And it's often now more peer-based. It doesn't have to be, like I said, that person who's advanced 20 years ahead of you in the industry. We chatted with an amazing woman, Kyla, on our podcast, and she said, you need to not be intimidated by someone in the same space as you. Chat with them and bounce ideas off each other and be more collaborative, because someone else's success and sharing your kind of secret sauce is never going to hinder your success. It's only going to widen your network and connections. So I just think that that's really important that future generations start to adapt that, like we said, that mindset of collaboration or competition.
It's actually how Stephanie and I met. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, Stephanie, where she connected with me through Instagram Messenger a couple years ago now already, where we entered a mentorship type relationship of getting to know each other and learning about each other's businesses and things. And it's been an amazing journey, and you can really make meaningful connections. And I was just always so impressed with the courage for her to send me a message when that started.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, am I on mute? No. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I sent Trish a DM when I was just finishing my master's in leadership, and she had not pivoted. She was running Leaders Inspired, so she was doing more leadership stuff. And I sent her a message over DM looking to connect in the Niagara region when I saw that she was local. She was in Fun Hill and I was in Niagara, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. So we connected and we did some stuff. Yeah, we did mentorship for a year. So it was a really great experience, I think, for both of us. It was really awesome. And it was a great way to connect.
Definitely. It's always great to connect with other people, because it's always about the ability and desire to learn from someone else, regardless of what your status is or your level in life. And when Stephanie and I connected as well, it was amazing. Like we were like the yin and the yang. So it's the ability to feed off each other and let others rise from that as well too, right? So totally agree with what Terry and Sarah were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can do a quick shout out, the Niagara are having a youth forum tonight hosted by the Niagara Falls MIAC. And I've been so impressed with the engagement that they're putting together, the presentations. It's just really young leaders in the making. They're already a leader and example of what can be done online. And I just want to do a quick shout out to them because it's quite amazing.
And if I can just touch on something that Terry and Sarah were talking about, not being afraid to connect with people in your own space. Being in HR and operations, I tend to rely a lot on other HR specialists. Like I'm more of a generalist. So I've connected with a great group of women who have been really inspiring. And we connect often just to help each other up, to lift each other up, and also to help, like bounce ideas off of it, because we can't do this all alone. We need each other. And together, I feel like we're stronger as a team than we are alone. So it's really great to meet people outside of your space, but also in your space, and build those relationships, because you never know when you might need to rely on someone or need extra information. And it's great to have those friendships too, because COVID has been hard for everyone working from home, and there's been so much change. So some of those relationships have been really fantastic.
That is great. So I'm hearing it takes a lot of courage to reach out to people and connect. And that kind of ties into the next group question that I'll leave to you guys. What leadership skills do you think are critical to develop in order to succeed and thrive in this digital era we're currently in?
I think you need really active and effective listening skills. Let somebody else shine over you. You may have great leadership, but sometimes you need to let other people shine as well. And you have to convey that with confidence, to let somebody go above you.
I think it's really important to put in the work to go off of your active listening. I always wanted to be a better conversationalist, and part of that is really putting the work into listen, and something as little as remembering someone's name. It just means so much. And those little things that you tell yourself when you're introduced to someone, you repeat it back and you say it to them. And those just make your conversation so much more meaningful. And it kind of leaves a lasting impression. And I think that's really, really important, especially in the online space too, connecting more meaningfully and never being afraid to send that cold DM, but doing your work behind it and not just putting like that blanket general statement out. You want it to be personalized to them. So I think adding that personal touch is really important to develop as well.
And I think just adding off of that, this is like, I've said this word probably a million times this year, but being vulnerable, like I mentioned before, like just being a human, real, raw, that portrays so much through regardless which communication you're having with people. If it is in person, if it is digitally, however you're going about that, I think that's a really good leadership style. I have been under some leaderships where I kind of was treated like a robot rather than a human. And it really just kind of didn't make me happy. And I just feel that those qualities, they are hard to learn, but they're so essential, and now even more so. And so those two things, like just, real, raw, human, vulnerable, and just keep it real, because we're, again, going through some stuff, and everyone's going through some stuff these days. And if we don't recognize that in our leadership style, then I don't feel like necessarily any which way you're asking me to do something, maybe even out of my job description, I'm not going to feel wanted to do that. Like I'm not going to, I might not feel, I'm always going to give my 100, but it's not going to feel right. So those things are at least they're extremely important to me.
And with that vulnerability, I think because leaders have been put in a new context, you're trying things for the first time. So even if you've practiced and you want to be professional, things aren't always going to go as planned. And there's learning in that, there's growing in that, and there is vulnerability. But if you're afraid to try new things, even if it might not go, perfectly, I think through that process, you learn and grow so much more, and you also connect that much more as well.
And having some empathy. It's a hard time right now, and everyone has a different situation at home. So taking a second to recognize that and be empathetic. You might have children at home, you might have aging parents, maybe someone is sick in your household. So just understand that the world that we live in now just needs a little bit more empathy, a little bit more understanding, to be able to connect with people and understand that each person has their own individual struggle that's going on that we may not realize. So instead of, being harsh, lift that person up, reach out to them, try to help them, always come like with a smiling face and a positive attitude instead of, treating someone, like Sarah was saying, like a robot. Make sure that you reach out, make sure that you're empathetic.
Yeah, you touched on empathy, and I just think that that's so important. And I think that so many people now are shying away or scared to say some things online because there is like this cancel culture out there that if you do something online or say something incorrectly or say something wrong, that you're going to be erased from the world. And I think that kind of cancel culture needs to be erased. Obviously, there's some things that need to be spoken out about, but there's something to be said about watching someone's kind of like redemption and how they're going to turn it around. And why not, instead of canceling someone, say, okay, how are you going to turn it around and educate yourself, and watch them put in the work to do that, instead of just blatantly being so harsh and being like, you're done, and leaving it at that. I think it's really important that both ends of social media, whether you're posting or engaging, that you have that empathy and encourage educating yourself instead of canceling people.
Oh, this is great, guys. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely I'm loving what everyone is saying. And even in my role as a communications officer, this is all really important information, and I'm getting so energized by this conversation. So thank you so much. I'm sure that everyone joining in right now is feeling the exact same way. At this point, I'm going to break off and start asking individual questions to the teams and to Patricia. Like I said before, feel free to jump into if you want to add something. The first question I have is for Stephanie and Teresa. How do women network differently from men? And how do you compensate for that in this virtual environment that we're in?
Teresa, do you want me to start and then you can jump in at any time? Does that sound good? I feel that women, when they are networking, they have more of a long-term focus. They're not looking to, just like a quick and easy, like, hello, and move forward. They're looking to build long-term connections, and they also network in smaller groups. They have a smaller group of friends usually, and they're looking to make deeper connections. Women use networks differently. They will reach out. They use them for more personal and professional questions and connections, not just for professional. And they also are more adaptable to their surroundings. So when they go out and network, they adapt more to the personalities that they're surrounded by, and they're more in tune with their situations or with people that they're talking to. So they do have the ability to definitely have deeper connections and relationships when they're networking.
It's perfect. Yeah, you nailed it there, Stephanie. We search for networking with people that we know who know somebody who knows somebody, and we all have these long-term goals that we strive for rather than a quick solution.
That's great. And how do you think that we women compensate for this in the virtual world? Do you think, similar to what I think Sarah was saying with the private DMs, do you think that people or women specifically, reaching out to different groups during this time?
I do. I think that they are. I think being on a virtual platform lets us expand our networks even more. I belong to a BNI group, and for that, we are able to now log into anywhere in the world that has a BNI group. So we have been able to attend groups or networking like meetings that we wouldn't have been able to before. So I think that using the virtual platform, it's allowing us to build different relationships in a larger geographic region, which we wouldn't have normally had the chance to before the virtual world.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next question I'm going to have for Patricia. We're all getting creative and trying new things, but as mentioned, this online world is quite new and there's some adjustments and some learning curves. How would you go about managing things that don't work out the way that you anticipated them to happen? Or how do you deal when things don't work out as planned?
Yeah, and that happens all the time. Technology is constantly changing. There's always something more to learn and try for the first time. So when it doesn't work out, I've gone through a lot of that. That's why I know what I know, because I think those are rich learning experiences. And if you flip it to, sometimes I might be recording something that is for a YouTube video later, or I'm running something live and people are right there with me. If all of a sudden my daughters are trying to open the front door really quietly, but taking a really long time, that squeak is going on and on and on as they're trying to be super quiet. It just resonates with everybody. We can laugh about it because it just shows you the beauty of live and the real context. It reaches through the camera because, when you have a different energy level and when you take those opportunities of something going wrong, you can just, it's unexpected and you can make things fun. As well. So I just, really encourage people to learn from it and then just keep going. Don't let that discourage you from trying again, even if it didn't work out as planned the first time.
I think we all probably have those stories where we've been in a Zoom meeting and all of a sudden there's a disruption, or there's a cat that walks across your screen, or I have 2 young neighbors who have knocked on my door to see if I want to jump on a trampoline, and I'm in a corporate meeting. But to your point, it adds that human element. So I think it's this digital world has really elevated that we're human and we have lives, and there's something humorous about that. Patricia, I do have another question for you. How do you think leaders, or do you have any tips or tools for leaders to keep their teams engaged? I know it was brought up before that a lot of corporate companies have team meetings regularly. How would you say, as a leader, how can you continue to engage and motivate your team on a digital platform?
Yeah, everybody learns differently, and what engages one person to spark that interest and reach through the camera is different from another person. So I really encourage the whole layering it, bring unexpected things like a prop and be ready. You almost need to magnify your energy level and rise it up a little bit. And it's not being fake, but in order to reach through that camera, it's really looking at the camera, which is a different learning curve. As facilitators, we're used to looking in each other's eyes when we're training, or in leadership, we want to make that connection. And so it feels so different online, and that's part of the learning curve. For someone else to feel like you're talking to them, you have to look at the camera. And so sometimes you do want to check the body language and look around, but just being conscious and intentional is just a different learning curve. And I would encourage leaders to include their team. There's so much creativity. So whether it's an active activity, icebreaker, warm up, get everybody involved with trying something new. Then they're learning the technology, they're learning different tools and skills, and it takes the pressure off too, to just have a collaborative approach.
That's excellent. I'm going to take some of those tools back to work with me this afternoon and relay them to some of our managers in the office. That's great. Thank you, Patricia. Terry and Sarah, going to move it to you guys. How can we continue to build connections, references, referrals, and build a business to really support women entrepreneurs digitally?
We're always got to check in. So who's going to say what? So yeah, with the current climate, we are obviously forced to go digitally, just as this conference. I remember last year I sat in front of amazing, beautiful faces, and I wish we could see more faces, but this is life. This is what's happening, right? So we definitely think, I like to show examples. I'm a visual sort of learner. So my example for how to do this is, let's just take Instagram for instance. So brick and mortar shops who are selling things, women entrepreneurs, they would open their door at 9 and they close their door at 5. And now that's, probably not happening. And so they're moving their business online. So how do we help them? Because before we used to walk into the door, we used to say hello, purchase, bring them flowers, or, chit chat for a little bit, and then we would leave. So we just have to kind of adapt that now. So my favorite part about this is it's kind of free to do and support and help people. So that is the liking, the sharing, the tagging, the reviewing, the saving the post on Instagram, all of that algorithm stuff that we're hearing about social media. That's real stuff. And that can really help spread that person's small little business that is really putting food on the table, or, helping them buy whatever they need to buy. So I definitely think that doing those little things that it's free. Supporting that stuff is super easy to do. But my one kind of takeaway for this is asking them how I can support you. We can't assume that just they want more likes, or we can't assume by sharing it, it's making a difference. And the one example I have is I just actually did family photos, and I asked the photographer. So of course on social media, I tag, I do everything. I totally blasted it for a couple of days, but then I was like, well, wait, like, what does she need from me? Because I wanted to tell her story. I wanted to tell my experience. And I asked her, how can I help you? And she was like, you know what I would really love? Can you go on Google, which is not something I usually do. I think social media first. Can you go on Google and do a review for me? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. It literally took me less than 5 minutes, logged in, found her, posted, and she was like, thank you so much. So I think it's, knowing that it's a little bit of a different world now, and a lot of the stuff we can do for people are free, but it's asking them how I can support you is a really big thing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about Females Who Side Hustle too, is that our mindset of our platform is, what can we do for our community? Well, people come to our page because they love our content and love what we're sharing, but we're sharing it for someone else. And so I think it's really, developing that mindset of knowing and asking and engaging with your community to see, okay, what do people need? Who could we shout out? Asking our community, what's a new hustle, or is there someone you love that's just started in quarantine that we can shout out and support? And just kind of, we love across industries to be able to say that we have a gal for that. So we want to know what people are doing and staying up to date in that. So I think making those connections online is important through just sharing and like seeing what people are doing and what you can do for them is the most important thing.
So in regards to connecting online and sharing information, how do you go about collaborating with different businesses? Is it the same sort of model with that connecting digitally, or do you have any other tips for collaborating with other entrepreneurs?
I think it's really important. I know I'm kind of repeating myself and saying those meaningful connections, but when you are sending off that message and it's just generic and doesn't really have much personalized, like, you don't want to hear from a robot. You want to hear that it's another person wanting to connect with you. A great example, we get a lot of messages about coming onto the podcast as guests. And some of them are great. And some of them I'm like, is this a person? Or is this an automated message? And we read them all and try and figure it out. And we had our last one, which I'll let Terry dive into a bit more because she was the one who made the connection, but she messaged us and was so excited and said, I had listened to this episode and I really took this away. So I think there is that like complimentary aspect that you need to engage with and show that you've kind of done your homework and you're not just shooting off a self-serving message.
You said it all. You're so good. She's so good. She's so good.
Oh, that's great, guys. I'm going to take it back to Stephanie and Teresa. What different things do you think women need to do to be able to rise, grow, and be inspired in this online digital world?
I think this platform that we're doing today helps women rise. More to what Terry and Sarah were saying, asking them, what can we do to help you? How can we make you visible? I mean, stepping out of your comfort zone and having that fear and that vulnerability, like Terry and Sarah were saying, let me help you. Let me show, I'm here. I'll show you the steps to get here. I mean, there's such a synergetic effect with rising, because once you rise out of your comfort zone, you grow out of your fears. You grow out of you just grow empowerment. You feel encouraged. And that in itself is inspiring. I feel that the words, it's impossible, you can't, don't do it, you'll fail, those are the destroyers of everybody's aspiration and goals. So if we can help anyone as young as 3 to get that out of their vocabulary and saying, yes, I can, and I need you to help me, those are what will help women rise and young girls rise and not fear to reach their goals. And I think that's the most important thing, is asking for help and removing fears.
That's great, Teresa. Thank you. Stephanie, I don't know if you have anything to add on that point.
I was going to say, I think Teresa covered it. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Good job, Teresa.
Patricia, I'm going to take it back to you in regards to layering content. So in the digital world, there's a lot of content that's circulating. And I know that through what you're currently doing as an entrepreneur, you're talking about layering content. Can you teach us a little bit how we can layer that content?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. I created a YouTube video too if people want additional resources and tips. You know, it's as simple as sometimes just having some music ready behind the scenes, whether like ta-da, you know, whether you're adding and layering it into a video content creation product or tutorial, or you're doing something live. To add, as I showed, the props and visuals. And so it's a literal layering as well. When you're training about something, people need maybe the key word. You can overlay a PowerPoint slide onto, you know, a recording of your presentation. When I was creating the video for the I Rise, it was 15 seconds, but so much goes into even getting creative with something small. And I talked about I vlogged, you know, my feelings on, I felt really weird on purpose falling into the water, and then on camera in that behind the scenes actually showing myself getting back on my stand-up paddleboard. It's kind of embarrassing, but I'm doing it intentionally also to be vulnerable and show everybody that anybody can try something new. And I recently reviewed my very first YouTube video. I was so awkward and not confident and comfortable in front of the camera. So we all start where we start, and we can't get to where we want to be unless we just do it and put it out there when it's not perfect.
That's great advice. Thank you very much. And I'll be sure to check out your YouTube video later today, because I'm actually quite interested in how I can take that into my everyday working environments. Just looking at the time, we do have a couple of questions that we've received from people tuning in, and I will open this up to whoever would like to answer. So here's an interesting one. Any recommendations for seniors who may not be comfortable with online technology, but who could really benefit from staying connected? And then this individual has indicated that they usually met in person quite regularly, but now that things have switched to a digital platform, they're finding that some members of this group are starting to drift away. And so they just want some advice on how they can continue to keep engaged with them without being overbearing, or understanding if they need their own space.
I can jump in. My previous jobs were at Community Support Services of Niagara, serving seniors and in communities by dialing 211. So there are a lot of programs in the community, whether it's youth volunteering, libraries. There's a lot of programs and services that people aren't aware of. So if they dial 211, they can find out what's available, and it's a really great starting point.
I also think just adding that, and again, I'm not sure if there's a better word for it, but that mentorship kind of helps there too. So don't be afraid to ask your grandchildren or nieces or nephews or neighbor or whoever it is to be like, can you show me how to work my iPad? Can you show me how to start an Instagram account? My grandmother, 98, she just turned 98, and she loves Facebook. Like, she loves Facebook, right? And so that's one reason why I'm posting so much on there. And she was just like, you know, we made it a little bit of a joke, and a lot of the family who live overseas, everyone knows to post, so grandma can get her daily fix of our kids and our photos and things like that. And so I know how much joy that sort of world can bring. So just don't be afraid to ask. Like, I loved showing my grandmother how to get on there, and I loved, you know, she doesn't do it the best, but she's there and she's looking. So asking for help. And I didn't know about that resources. So dialing 211, that's amazing resources for you guys too.
How do you know, or This person also wants to know what social media platforms or digital spaces would be the best option for them to, any recommendations? I know, Terry, you mentioned Facebook and your grandmother, but any other platforms that you have experience using that might be beneficial to seniors that might feel uncomfortable with technology?
Go ahead, Teresa. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Facebook is a wonderful start, and then from there maybe progress to Instagram, because you do get a wide variety of people on there from different ages, and I think that starting off with a Facebook and then going to Instagram, and then like Terry was saying, have your grandchildren show you how to use Snapchat or do these fun little TikTok videos. And it's just a fun way to expand your technical skills.
Yeah, and I think that to go off what we've all said about kind of that mentorship and not being afraid to ask, like, can you show me how to do this? On the other end, if you are the helper, the younger generation, say, let me get you set up with your Instagram account. And then it's just showing them basically where the app is and scrolling and getting them following the moms, the aunts, the uncles, and then they don't have to do much. So it is intimidating, but they don't always have to do it for the purpose of growing an audience. They just want to kind of connection and that exposure. So if you can get them set up and show them the basics, it's not like they have to know the back end too much. So I think that would really help too, and just helping with the setup and showing them how to use it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful opportunity for that intergenerational support and interaction for older adults to connect with youth. So it's pretty great for both that are involved.
Absolutely. Just given the time, it looks like it's 10:51. I'm just going to check to make sure we haven't missed any questions. Maddie, any other questions?
Yeah, there was one question. I am part of a group that used to meet regularly in person. Now we've been forced to switch online, and I noticed some of our members drift away. What's your advice on keeping them engaged?
Anyone want to answer that one?
Yeah, I can try. I definitely think it depends on the context. And I feel potentially if it was like a social context, then maybe introducing, so there's a lot of other platforms out there that you could do like trivia nights, and you can have, you can do virtual tours through Airbnb. Like you can make it like an outing, but you're still in your house and you do sort of like fun activities. If it was for other purposes, then, maybe reach out to those people, and maybe it's not anything to do with what your like platform is or however many times you meet. Maybe they're just literally getting a little bit overwhelmed, or they just need a break for that time. So I definitely feel we should, again, ask what they need, our support. Don't assume that it's something to do that you're doing. Maybe they just need a break. And the very good example of this is my lovely colleagues that I teach with at Niagara College. So we regularly got together, and then we couldn't. And so we have wine nights. And one of the girls that I teach with is a sommelier. So we would do these once in a while. And truthfully, sometimes the timing didn't work for me as a mom with young kids. It was bedtime for everybody. So they were like, oh, do we want to change the time? Well, let's switch up the date. And even just doing that and asking me, 7:30, does it work? I'm like, actually, it doesn't. And then we changed it, and now I haven't missed one. So it's those little things. It's tapping into, maybe your gut, your intuition. Why aren't they showing up? So I guess it, again, depends on the context, but reaching out to those people and just asking, if this doesn't work for you, it's okay. We can maybe change it for you.
And I would say to use the tools like Zoom breakout rooms or pinned chat. Like there's so many different ways that maybe it's the context of so many people. And if it is more intimate, you might get different engagement there too.
That is fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on behalf of the YWCA Niagara region. This has been incredible, and the Niagara Leadership Summit, the information you provided, I'm sure has definitely re-energized our viewers and those listening. I know it definitely has for me, so I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join us.